This is an interesting film, which is the English language debut from Norwegian director Joachim Trier. Takes its title, Louder Than Bombs, takes its title from a Smiths album, which in turn took its title from Elizabeth Smart's by Grand Central Station. I Sat Down and Wept. And this played in Cannes in competition last year, with 2016 now in 2015. And when it played at Cannes, the reviews sort of drew comparison between it and Ordinary People, which I think is a sort of slightly misleading comparison, although I do understand where that comparison comes from. Essentially, the story is Isabelle Huppert is a war photographer who at the beginning of the movie has died, and we meet her family, Gabriel Byrne, who is her father, and the children, Jesse Eisenberg, who is the older child, and Devon Druid, who is the younger child, 15. And they are in the run-up to an exhibition, a retrospective exhibition of her life and work. And there is also about to be a newspaper article about her life and work. And what the film then does is flips back and forwards between what counts for the present, between that story, the lead up to the exhibition and the lead up to the newspaper article, and events from their previous life, and the differing ways in which differing members of the family remember their mother, their wife. Isabelle Huppert does appear in the film, obviously in flashback and in memory. And one of the things that the film does rather well is to revisit events constantly from slightly different perspectives in slightly different versions. So the whole film has a sort of slightly dreamy quality to it. But one of the key plot points is that the newspaper article is going to reveal that the crash she died in might not have been entirely accidental, might in fact have been something that was prompted by depression. In the clip we're going to hear, Gabriel Byrne is telling his older son, Jesse Eisenberg, that he has to tell his younger son, Conrad, about this before the newspaper article appears. Jesse Eisenberg's character thinks not.
He's not doing that well. I don't think you should tell him what you told me last night.
I don't know. Don't you think he deserves to know the truth?
The truth? What is the truth? What's some story that Richard wants to write? How is that the truth? He's gonna make her out to seem like she's some kind of depressed person.
No, I don't think he will. But she was depressed. You know that, right? I mean, you were away at college. Right? Sometimes I think it must have been really hard for you. I mean, it was tough here. You didn't know what was really going on. I mean, it was... Yeah, you couldn't know what was going on.
Actually, I did know what was going on because she called me all the time. Like when she wouldn't talk to you, she would talk to me. So I spoke to her all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess this story suits you perfectly though, because then you can make her out to be the negligent parent, and you can be like the perfect parent.
Yeah. I don't want to argue about this.
You get a sense from that clip of the sort of musing nature of the film, and I know that it has divided people. I know that some people have taken against it. It is a film about the way in which everybody hurts, and occasionally, in being that, it can be somewhat trite. That said, I was rather taken with it for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's a film which has some superb performances. I mean, I think Isabelle Huppert is just a mesmerising screen presence, and although she's not in the movie that much, she dominates the screen because the memory of her character, the presence of her character, is absolutely there in every frame of the film. Gabriel Byrne too, I think, he's one of my favourite actors, and you don't often get the chance to see him being given, in the cinema, being given the chance to remind you why it is that you kind of first fell in love with him. Second thing about it is it's a film which shuffles its time frames like a pack of cards being dealt really beautifully. It's a film which flips between the past and the present, between dreams and reality, between imagination and fact, in a way which is so sort of subtly done that you get a sort of dreamy, woozy, slightly hallucinatory, heightened reality feel, which I liked very much. The film does a very good job of picking away at the fact that all its central characters appear to be leading more than one life. All of them have got some kind of dual life going on, and this mirrors the way in which Isabelle, the central character, had two lives. One of them was her working life, which placed her in danger. The other was her home life, and she could never quite reconcile the two. Now, there may seem to be a thematic comparison, therefore, between this and A Thousand Times Good Night, the film in which Juliette Binoche plays a war photographer who similarly can't reconcile her domestic and work life. In fact, tonally, and this sounds weird, the films that it reminded me of the most are Donnie Darko to some extent. It had some of the. You've seen Donnie Darko, haven't you?
Many years ago.
You remember the sort that atmosphere, the almost unreal atmosphere of the suburban domesticity. It has some of that. It has, on the sidelines, a hint of, we need to talk about Kevin, Lynn Ramsey's movie, and Lynn Ramsey's name will come up again in this program. That sense that something might be about to turn really terrible. Also, there's a little bit of Sam Mendes's American Beauty. Again, that slight sense of dreaminess of the reality of any circumstance being just swimming on the border between being awake and being asleep. You know, that sort of half waking state. And there's one shot in it in which the camera just looks at Isabelle Huppert for what feels like 2 minutes or something, and you see on her face this symphony of expressions. It's a film in which the camera gives the cast plenty of room to find their characters, but it's also not afraid of lingering on faces, on a two-shot, on a close-up, on an apparently incidental moment. Now, I do understand why it is that for some people that might seem to be, as I said, the word I used before was, it might seem to be twee, it might seem to be self-indulgent, but I didn't find it was at all, despite the fact that it is in a genre of films with which I have often found those problems. Actually, it had a kind of, tone poem quality to it that rather won me over. And I did find myself being slowly, hypnotically entranced by the mood of it, by the score, which is very ambient, very, in the background, but just filling in the blanks as much as you need. And I also thought, and this is the most important thing, with characters that I cared about, characters who, despite the fact that, whatever the circumstances of their life were, the movie made me care about them, particularly the character played by Devin Druid, Conrad, who is the young teenage son who at first appears to be just completely insufferable and, is horrible to his father and aggressive and rude and difficult and just wants to play video games. And there's a very, very funny sequence in it in which his father attempts to communicate with him by joining in video games, which I won't spoil the gag. Unlike me, in this particular case, I won't spoil the gag because I want you to enjoy it for yourself. But I liked it. I thought it had an impressive atmosphere to it, and it was one of those films that quietly and discreetly got under my skin. And it's called Louder Than Bombs.